Hey everyone, it's Mr. E-Man5112 here, and today I'm going to be talking about the improvements that I would make to Bandai Namco's Jump Force. As I'm sure any of you who played the game are familiar, Jump Force is a game that was a massive manga crossover fighting game that received a fair amount of, shall we say, criticism. Now, as with any fighting game, the biggest problem that you're going to run into immediately is the roster. I feel that the roster for Jump Force runs into a couple of problems, namely with representation for some series, or in some cases, lack thereof. So, in an effort to balance the roster a little bit better in terms of representation, I think the first step would be to remove one character from Dragon Ball, Naruto, and One Piece, since they all have 6 representatives while other series only have 1. That seems more than fair. So the characters that I chose to remove from these 3 series are Trunks from Dragon Ball, Sanji from One Piece, and Boruto from Naruto. I chose to remove Trunks mostly due to the fact that Dragon Ball already had 2 other Saiyan representatives in Goku and Vegeta. Trunks seemed just a little bit excessive. Sanji was chosen to be removed mostly due to the fact that out of all the One Piece characters, he felt the least significant. And Boruto, do I even really need a reason? Boruto. No one likes Boruto as a character. Sorry, not sorry to anyone who may actually like Boruto, but you're wrong. I would also, in the base roster, replace Kaguya with Madara, because personally, I feel that Madara was a much better villain for Naruto, and Kaguya kinda came out of left field as a representative for the series in this game. Now, as for changes I would make to the roster outside of the big 3, for Hunter x Hunter, I would actually cut Kurapika as a representative, because I don't think he worked very well with the game. I would also add Hiei from Yu Yu Hakusho, because that series could really do with a bit more representation, along with adding Kaiba to the base roster for Yu-Gi-Oh! And Bakugo from My Hero Academia to give both Yugi and Deku more representation. And I would add Yuno from Black Clover for the exact same reason. The last change to the base roster, though, would actually be to cut Dai from Dragon Quest, due to the fact that since Dragon Quest is a licensed property, I don't think it made a whole lot of sense for Dai to be in there anyways. Now, having made all those changes to the base roster, and with most of the additions that I think should have been made, obviously you would have to rework the entirety of the first Season Pass worth of characters, since most of them I chose to be included in the base game anyways. I would actually rework Season Pass 1 to be released in 3 sets of 3 characters each kind of working along a theme for the general characters. The first, I think, should be a hero pack to include some additional heroic characters. Personally, I would add Noel Silva from Black Clover, because again, that's the series that could do with some more characters in this game. I would also add Yu Yu Hakusho's Kurama, because for the same reason, being as big of a series as Yu Yu Hakusho is, that didn't get a lot of characters in the game. I would also add Jonathan Joestar from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Out of all the characters that you could add from JoJo, I feel that Jonathan makes the most sense, since he is the character who started it all, and also is the only other JoJo to have a personal and very, very dark relationship with the series' other villainous character included in the game already, being Dio. Now, for the second Season Pass DLC pack, I would actually have this one be a Villain Pack 1. I think Meruem from Hunter x Hunter should have been included in this, because Hunter x Hunter didn't really get a villain character in the game. I mean, they have Hisoka. Wait,
he doesn't exactly fall into the traditional villain role, at least not at the point where the series is at. I would also add Tomura Shigaraki from My Hero Academia, because along the same lines as Hunter x Hunter, that show didn't get a villain included in the game. And for my last pick for Villain Pack 1, I would actually add Rao from Fist of the North Star, which mostly is because Fist of the North Star is a rather iconic anime, and a large part of what led to some of the other shows being how they are today. And that series only got its main character included in the game. I feel that there should be at least one more. Now, seeing as I want to keep the number of characters the same, Season Pack 1 would actually be capped off with a Villain Pack 2. And in my opinion, it would consist of Merrick from Yu-Gi-Oh!, Hades from Saint Seiya, and Grimmjow from Bleach. I chose Merrick because I feel like you already would have Yugi and Kaiba at this point, and keeping all of their movesets the same, Yugi would have Slifer as his ultimate, and Kaiba has Obelisk as his. I think it's only fair to round out that set by including Merrick and having his ultimate use the Winged Dragon of Ra. Hades, I chose to include once again because that series didn't have a villainous representative, and I chose to keep Grimmjow in the Season Pass because Bleach kind of deserved to be rounded up to 5 characters to match the other big name shonen anime. Now, I would also completely rework Season Pass 2 to mostly be including characters from series not already represented within the game. I would actually increase the number of characters in this pack from 5 to 6, and then release them again in 3 sets with 2 characters each, still kind of trying to follow a theme for the characters. So the first set that I would do is something like a School Days pack, and this set would include Koro Sensei from Assassination Classroom, who was actually in the previous Jump crossover game, J-Star's Victory Versus. And honestly, Koro Sensei works pretty well. I would also include Madaka Kurakami from Madaka Box, who, like Koro Sensei, was also a character in J-Star's Victory Versus, and I'm not entirely sure why either of these two got cut. Now, for the second pack in Season 2, this would actually be like a gag manga pack. It would include Bobobo from his own series, also previously included in J-Stars, along with Gintoki from Gintama, and both of these characters would kind of help to exemplify the more comedic side of Jump, as opposed to all the characters that are in the base game, which primarily focus on like the action fighting aspect of Jump. And I think it's good to kind of showcase both sides, seeing as this game was meant to be a celebration of all things Shonen Jump. Now, the last one for Season Pass 2 would be a set about characters who kind of just are their jobs in the series. And for that set, I would actually include Suna from Hitman Reborn, along with Tanjiro from Demon Slayer. And I feel like Suna, he should have already been there. He was in the previous game, kind of like everyone else. But Tanjiro, being the only newcomer, kind of makes sense due to how immensely popular Demon Slayer was just after its release. I feel like Tanjiro kind of deserves a spot in this game to showcase, alongside characters like Asuka and Midoriya, the new generation of Shonen Jump characters. Now, moving on from the roster, another thing that Jump Force was kind of lacking in was additional costumes, because so many of these characters have looks beyond just their original looks that are included in the game, and a lot of people really like to see some of those. So I decided to touch on a few that I think would be some good additions. Like, for Goku, you could use his End of Z costume, the one with the blue gi. Vegeta could have his Buu Saga outfit, the one where he's just wearing his workout clothes without any of the armor. For Luffy and Zoro from One Piece, you could honestly just go with their pre-time skip outfits. That would be a little bit of a issue with the skills, but honestly, I think you can kind of look past that. Hancock, I think her Impel Down costume would actually be a pretty cool look. For Naruto and Sasuke, you could use their Boruto era costumes if you still want some representation from that series, where Naruto has his Hokage outfit and Sasuke has his Wandering Shinobi costume. For Ichigo, you could actually use his original costume from earlier in the series. Same with Gon, where he still has his green jacket. For Jotaro, you could actually go with his Part 4 costume, the one where he's wearing all white. And for Yugi, you could give him a costume based on the Pharaoh. So I think all of those would be pretty easy costumes, just right off the cuff, that you could give to a lot of characters. Obviously, not every character would be as easy to find costumes for. Certain characters, like, say, Tanjiro, don't have as many outfits. And that's where my next idea comes into play, of including additional recolors anytime that you're going with the player 2, if, say, 2 people both choose the same character, to make an easier distinction to figure out which character is which. And a lot of these characters, you could even use the P2 recolors as references to other appearances that they've had throughout their shows. For example, Vegeta, the most famous recolor you can give him would be his Planet Arlia appearance from earlier in Dragon Ball. You could use Frieza's P2 color to reference his brother Cooler, and for Cell, you could just color him blue as a reference to the Cell Juniors. Naruto and Sasuke, you could actually give them recolors based off of their original series look, pre-Shippuden. And for Jotaro, you could actually go with his Part 3 anime appearance, which is a little more black in color. Dio, too, you could give him a color scheme for Player 2 based on his Part 1 appearance, which was predominantly a little more red and purple. Deku, too, you could give him a costume based on All Might. And for Bobobo, if you were going to be adding him into the game like I suggested earlier, you could give him his red costume based on the second part of the Bobobo manga, Shinsetsu Bobobo. Tanjiro and Nezuko, too, would be pretty easy to do a recolor for. You could just swap their colors around. And there you go. There's some easy recolors and references to things. And not all of the P2 recolors would even have to be references. Some of them could just be altered colors just to make it easier to tell, should both players choose the same character, which one is which. Another area that Jump Force was pretty lacking in was in NPCs for the hub world. In the game as it is right now, the only NPCs that you ever run into are just other randomly generated CAC characters. And that's a real shame because there are so many characters, even just looking at the franchises already in the game, that could be included as NPCs that are just there that you can talk to and see interacting with one another. But even from fighters, or from series that aren't represented in the game already, they would be really cool to just have as NPCs. Maybe characters like, say, Hinata from Haikyuu, or Soma from Food Wars, or even Senku from Dr. Stone, or Emma from The Promised Neverland. And even characters who could potentially be fighters, but wouldn't really be able to stack up, like, say, Speedwagon from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Also, it would be really cool to see some of these characters running shops. Like, some of these guys don't even have to be actual fighters, they can just be there running different shops. Characters like, say, Jiraiya and Master Roshi, who they're not going to be stacking up power-wise to any of these other characters, but they could run, like, say, a skill shop to teach your characters new moves. Or you could even have, like, a food shop where you can buy, like, in-battle items that you can use for health restoratives that could be run by Soma and Sanji. Or an item shop where you can just buy various items, and that could be run by Senku. All of these things would have made the game a lot more interesting for fans of all of these various series. Now, moving on to the actual gameplay of Jump Force, the biggest failure that I saw was the actual RPG aspect of it. I feel like they could have leaned a little harder into it, kind of something along the lines of Dragon Ball Xenoverse, to have a better leveling system for your CAC to allow you to feel like you're actually kind of building this character, kind of including things like attribute points to make you, say, move faster, have more health, hit harder, things of that line. And also, due to just how many different fighting styles there are in this game for the other characters, it would have been cool to have more options for your CAC. Instead of just, oh, well, you have one of 3 different combo strings that you can pick from the very beginning. It would have been cool to say, like, oh, well, I want my character to be able to use a sword, or I want my character to have guns, or I want my character to function as a summoner along the lines of characters like Yugi who attacks with Dark Magician, or Jotaro who attacks using Star Platinum. Also, another thing, and this one's just me nitpicking a little bit, but I would remove some of the accuracy points that they have. Things like Dio not being able to fight on stages in the daylight, or Gon being removed from a round after using his ultimate. Because as cool as that is from a fan perspective of, oh look, that's really accurate, as a gameplay mechanic, it kinda sucks. And perhaps the last big change that I would make is I would actually include more skills that you could include for your CAC, including characters' skills that aren't actually in the game. What do I mean by that? Including moves like, say, Lee's 8 Gates to be used like an attack buff, or Krillin's Destructo Disc, or Shikamaru's Shadow Stitching, Kirishima's Hardening from My Hero Academia, or Robin's Cien Fleur attack as, say, like an ultimate move. Just give more skills from the series that are already represented in the game, but from characters who aren't necessarily in there. Just to kind of allow people to have a little more freedom and to say, oh hey, I know who that character has that skill. It would just be something neat, and it would also provide more variety in skills, aside from just the ones that you see all the other existing characters in the game already using. It would provide a sense of, what's the word I'm looking for? A sense of adventure. Kind of trying to figure out, like, oh hey, what other skills are there? Like, who does this move? Where's this from? It would be fun. So that's my thoughts on how to improve Jump Force as a whole. I know I spent quite a bit of time on the roster, I'm sorry, but for a game like this, the roster really kind of makes or breaks things for some people, and this game's roster was kind of lacking. But overall, tell me what you guys think. Just leave some comments. If you want me to keep doing things like this, drop some recommendations for other games that you'd love to see me say, hey, how would you make this game better? Sorry for making this video so long. In the future, I'll try to cut down on the length, make things a little more concise. And, yeah, that's it. Leave a comment, like, and subscribe. Thanks, guys.